Welcome, everyone. My name is Kaylin from SMUD's Community Education and Technology Center. On behalf of SMUD, welcome to Energy Saving Tips and Tricks for Renters, which is being recorded. We hope you are staying safe and are glad you have joined us for this presentation. SMUD is a not-for-profit utility owned by you, our ratepayers, and because we are community-owned, we are focused on our customers. That is one of the many reasons why we offer a variety of educational and online resources. Please check out our website at smud.org/learn. And like I said, we are recording this class and it will be posted to smud.org/learn within the next month. For decades, SMUD has been a leader in clean energy and carbon reduction. Our 2030 zero carbon vision continues this commitment. Our goal to reach zero carbon emissions in our power supply by 2030 is the most ambitious goal of any large utility in the United States. Learn more and join the charge where you can get a free t-shirt and stickers at cleanpowercity.org. And right after I finish this introduction, I'll drop those links in the chat so you won't have to write them down. Also, they will be sent to you in a follow-up email. In that follow-up email, you'll receive a feedback survey link. If you could please take a moment to let us know what you thought about this presentation. If there's any other topics you're interested in, we really look at those and take them seriously. In fact, this class is one that we added because a lot of people suggested some low cost, no cost energy saving tips. So that's what we built this class based off of. So we really take those in, and please, if you can, fill those out. During this webinar, you will be muted, but may ask any questions via the chat area on your screen. At the end of the presentation, we'll be able to answer any of your questions, so type them in there as we go and we'll address them at the end. Now I'd like to introduce our speakers, Michael Punselin and Grace Kwong. Mike has been with SMUD for 13 years, of which 9 years has been as an energy specialist. Grace has been with SMUD for 16 years and has also been an energy specialist for over 8 years. In their current roles, they conduct in-home and virtual energy efficiency audits, class presentations, and community engagement, providing SMUD customers energy-saving tips and other SMUD programs. So I'm going to turn it over to you, I think, Mike, and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Kaylin. Once again, my name is Michael Punslin, one of the senior energy specialists here at SMUD. I just want to say thank you guys for joining us this afternoon for this hopefully informational and beneficial class for saving tips and tricks for our renter customer population. So the idea behind this is, like Kaylin said, you got feedbacks from previous classes with regards to more information that tailored to renters. So these are just some tips and tricks that we came up with that could be low cost or no cost savings that can be done at home that can hopefully help you reduce your usage, thus reduce your energy burden each month at the home, whether it be your electric bill or your gas bill. So just a little bit about SMUD. Like Kaylin had mentioned, we're community owned for over 75 years. So we are owned by you guys, the ratepayers that are SMUD customers. So we don't have any shareholders that we need to worry about. So everything that SMUD makes or generates goes back to the community. And so we are ran by some 7 board members who actually live in the neighborhoods that they represent. So they are in touch with the neighborhoods, and any issues that pertain to SMUD, they're able to bring it up to the board meetings, and which are always open to our community. One of the many things that as an energy specialist that we do besides doing the home energy audits is we do provide classes and resources to our customers and community engagement. So, some of you might see us out in county fairs, the state fairs, or, regular regional fairs or events with our SMUD tents, providing some information to our customers. Our energy assistance program rate is our discounted rate for income qualified customers. So it's based on your gross income and the size of your household. and we generate those numbers based on the federal poverty level. So those are some of the numbers and guidelines that we use to qualify you for our discount. And this is a monthly discount that is taken off your utility bill each month. There is a recertification process. Once you get enrolled, every 2 years, we will recertify and just ask for to provide updated income documentations to see if you still meet the general guidelines to earn that discount. And as you can see, some of those discounts vary from $10 all the way to $70 a month off your SMUD bill. So which means that, $70 if you're a $100 bill, $70 is waived off. $30 of it is all you're responsible for. So that's a good, help for your budget. Another discount we offer is our medical equipment discount rate, or we call the med rate. This one is for qualifying medical equipment that may be needed in the home, such as oxygen concentrator, electric wheelchair or scooter, in-home dialysis cyclers. Also, additional home heating and cooling if you have electric heating, and of course you're going to have an electric cooling. If you have medical conditions that requires you to have a regulated home temperature and you have a electric heating and cooling, you can possibly qualify for that $15 discount a month. So we're going to go over some of the weatherization programs that SMUD offers, as well as the tips and strategies that you guys all signed up for and hopefully can be beneficial in applying to your specific situation. SMUD has a free refrigerator trade-in program. This is based on customers that are enrolled or qualify for our EPR or Energy Assistance Program rate discount. The homes can be heated with gas or electric. Years past, we didn't address customers that were gas heated, but that's changed. So now any customer that qualify for EPR or is enrolled in that EPR program qualifies for a refrigerator trade-in program. Typically, we require the refrigerator to be about 12 years old, but that's also a discretion with the program, depending on the customer needs. Is if it's if it's 8 years old but it's leaking water, icing up, freezing up, or not even getting cold, your gaskets on the door falling apart, then we'll make an exception and replace that refrigerator, because obviously you're going to be losing energy that way. And the idea of the program is to help you save the energy and save on your utility costs. The one caveat is for renters is the renter or the tenant has to own the refrigerator. It cannot belong to the property manager or to the landlord, so to speak. So that way, when you do move out, that refrigerator belongs to you. You can move it. You can take it with you. It doesn't stay with the home. Owners and renters can apply, and to set up an appointment, you call our weatherization department at that number at 916-732-5659. Or you can always go to our website at smud.org, and we have a weatherization link for that as well. It is based on funding. Typically, on an average year, we may replace anywhere from 7 to 1,000 refrigerators in the community. So I've since been doing this for 9 years. I don't think we've ever exhausted our funding for refrigerators. The issue we're having right now, if you're interested, is supply chain issue. Just getting them in stock to our contractor to provide to our customer is what's causing the delay. But as far as funding, we're usually able to accommodate most of the customers that apply for the program. On top of that,
go ahead, Mike. I was going to say,
Chris.
Refrigerator. Also, you want to make sure that when you buy a refrigerator or have a refrigerator, it's properly sized. A lot of customers like to get a large refrigerator, but you actually waste electricity when it's too large and say you don't have very much in it. The refrigerator will run more often, and so you want to make sure that you get one that's the right size for your needs and for your family needs. If you do have a lot of empty space, say in the freezer, you don't use it for a lot for the freezer space, then what you might want to do, a tip that we usually tell customers, is to fill up empty milk jugs or juice jugs, fill it up with water almost to the top, but not all the way up to the top because ice will expand, and just keep those in the freezer just as kind of a space saver, because it's kind of how we explain it. It's kind of like a cooler, right? You have a cooler, you have a 6-pack in one and a single can in another. If you keep opening the lid, then that single can is going to get warmer faster, right? So whereas the 6-pack cooler is going to be cold longer because the other ones are keeping it cold. Same concept for your refrigerator and freezer. The fuller it is, then the less it will run because items in the refrigerator will still be cold. And that especially is good for the wintertime, when if there is an outage in your area for this because of storms or what have you, then your refrigerator won't warm up as quickly as a more empty refrigerator. So something to consider. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Grace. On top of our refrigerator replacement program, we also offer a free weatherization program for our EPR qualified and EPR customers. It applies for both owner and renters. And some of the measures that we look at are your attic insulation, weather stripping around your doors, screens for your windows, LED lighting. Also available to install a smart or programmable thermostat. So these are some of the basic measures that we offer. Some offers can also look at your heating and air system, as well as your water heating, depending on the depending on the age of the house as well. Typically, we look at homes that are older than 20 years old, since most newer homes should be Title 24 compliant and should have mostly high energy efficient equipment and measures in them, as well as having a quote unquote tight house where it's not going to have a lot of air leakage going through it. So if you're interested in that program, and it applies for single family homes, some multifamily like a duplex or a quadplex, we can do a free weatherization on those. Unfortunately, with apartments, it's harder to do because most of the apartment complex managers and properties will have their own in-home maintenance technician that can address your needs. But if you wanted an energy specialist come out, we can do an assessment of the home and then talk to your property manager or landlord, and let them know what can possibly be done. And if we're able to do it through our program, it's a free service that we offer, and SMUD pays for the labor and the parts that's needed.
Okay, so thermostats. We have, there's several different types of thermostats out there. I'm sure you've seen lots of commercials for the Nest. The Nest is that round one that you see here in this picture. And they also have other brands and different types as well that are more square or rectangular shape. Using a programmable thermostat can help you save money by being able to manage your usage, right? So say, for example, during the summertime, you're at work, kids are at home, right? Because they don't have school. So when you're not home, they like to turn down that thermostat. And so with the Wi-Fi thermostats, you're able to have it on your app on the phone so that you can actually control it yourself. So you can monitor the setting of your thermostat and be able to set it and make it stay at the temperature you let it set it at, so they can't turn it down no matter what they try to go do to the thermostat. You can lock them out. Or also say you're away from home, you're gone, you leave the thermostat off completely, and maybe an hour or two before you arrive home, or before peak is a good way to do it as well. You start up your air at, say, 3 o'clock. Right now, we don't need it, right? A couple of weeks ago, we were certainly needing that air conditioner. So instead of letting it run all day long to pre-cool your home, you can use it from, say, 3 to 5 before the peak hits, and be able to turn down your thermostat down to the cooler setting, let it run, pre-cool the home, and come 5 o'clock before the peak prices start, then go ahead and bump it up to 80, up to 78 to 80 or higher, whatever you can, so it won't run during those times as often as it would be if you had it set lower. Next slide. Okay, so we recommend for heating setting the thermostat at 68 or lower, and then 55 away when you're at night, or when you're gone. And we do recommend that you maintenance the heating and air unit. Now, as a renter, you don't have control over that, right? That's your landlord's responsibility because it's not your unit. So that's something that you want to remind your landlords, say in the fall or spring, because that's before the season comes up. Right now, it would be a great time to get your system maintenance for the heater, to make sure that your heater's working properly. And then say in April or May, early May, that's when you want to remind your landlord, hey, to come service that heating and air unit for the air conditioner portion. Because if you have them do it during the summertime or the winter time, basically the heating and air folks are going to be very busy, right? So it's going to cost them more. They're going to have a delay in service sometimes. And so just to kind of be proactive and letting your property manager or owner or whoever you rent from know, have them come out and take a look at it, make sure everything's working right, and letting them know if there's any problems ahead of time, right? Because they don't live there. They don't know if you're hearing noises and the tech comes out and the tech can't replicate it. They can't be able to tell what's wrong with it. Also want to check your rental agreement to see whose responsibility is it for the thermostat. Is that the thermostat going to be something that maintenance comes and does for you, or is that something that they provide for you, or are you supposed to do it yourself? In the future slide, you'll see some filters, and you can take a look and see how to do it if you don't know how to do it. But it really should be changed monthly, if at all possible. If you have those nicer filters that are a 90-day filter, then you don't need to change as often. But basically, it's kind of like a mask for your system. You want to make sure that is clean so it can run properly and better and give you some good airflow. I know the last line seems kind of redundant, and it's kind of, you think it's silly, right? Keep the interior doors. Oh, sorry, that's interior doors. So that one is when you have a air grill that's in the hallway. So there's usually air intake is what they call it, and that's where the filter goes. If you have your bedrooms off to the hallways, a lot of times, a lot of people like to close those bedroom doors, but that doesn't help the system get the air it needs. So those interior doors need to be open so that it can grab room from all the rooms to be able to cycle correctly. So if you were standing in the hallway and you had the door closed, or your kid has their door closed, under the door, you're going to feel air coming underneath the door. Well, if they had left it open a little bit more, you're going to feel more airflow to be able to get that heat or cold, depending on the season, out of there and into the system to kind of cycle the air through the homes better. Some customers like to close the registers in the rooms that they don't use, thinking that that's going to make the other rooms blow harder. But you have to remember there's a fan motor in there, and the fan's going to blow the air a certain direction. Just because you close it doesn't mean that air is going to bounce back to another register to make it stronger in another room. So it's actually better to have those open, so then that way it can circulate the air in the home more efficiently. Next
Thanks,
slide.
Grace. And then just to add on the for the filters, a good general rule of thumb is once it starts turning gray, it's time to replace it, especially if you have pets, or if that return air grill is floor level instead of the ceiling. You're going to get more pet dander that way, dust accumulated quicker, especially during the heating and cooling season. So once you look at it and you see that it's starting to turn the shade of gray, even, darker gray or whatnot, it's time to replace that filter. And some will have the washable filter. It's always good to have a spare filters that are disposable while you clean that filter, because you got to make sure it's completely dry before reinstalling it. So it's nice to have even those 30-day filters in there in the meantime. So at least if you do have to run your heating and air system, you're not running without a filter while you wait for the filter to dry. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're thinking of replacing your filters.
Good add, Mike. Okay, so that bottom picture, that's a filter, right? And you can see how dusty and dirty that is. So if it's not being replaced very often, I think someone in the chat mentions that their landlord only replaces it once a year. Your filter probably looks something like this, especially if you're using your heater and air conditioner on a regular basis. So some customers figure, well, let me just take the filter out and not put one in at all. Well, if you don't put a filter in at all that gray stuff is going through your ductwork and blowing back on you in the room. So you definitely want to make sure there's a filter. And there's a little arrow in the middle of that frame there. On that paper cardboard frame in the middle, there's an arrow. And so that arrow tells you which direction that the air is going into the system. So you want to make sure that that's going the right way, because if not, that also will impede your airflow. And then, of course, you want to vacuum that out. You want to vacuum the grill grates and things like that to keep it clean. Excuse me. And then the top picture is more of what the inside of an air conditioner condenser unit looks like. So if you have dogs, if you live in a home, a duplex or something that you see your AC unit there, you want to make sure that you keep your dogs away from that. Dogs tend to like to urinate on there, and that really messes up the metal on the system. So that can cause issues as well. So you want to make sure that there's no debris around it, keep it good airflow, because the fins is how the system grabs air from the outside. And so you want to make sure that it has good airflow all the way around. So don't block it, don't cover it, don't do anything. It needs to have that air. And then the heat rises above the top on the fan part, right? So on the circular part on the left-hand side of that air conditioner picture, that's where the heat rises for the air conditioner. And then in the wintertime, if you have a heat pump system, then that will be where the cold comes up. But definitely make sure to remind your landlords to have the system maintenance. No use in having it maintenance right now for AC unless it's hopefully won't get hot anymore this year. But if they come and if say your system's leaking Freon, you don't want them to come necessarily to do it right now, because then they basically filled it for nothing, right? So if for some reason your system is not cold during the summertime, you want them to put the Freon in the springtime so that you have usage of it during the summer. No use in doing it right now, because if the wintertime you're not using it, the Freon will be gone by the time summer rolls around again next year, possibly. So you kind of need to make sure it's in the right seasons for what you need to maintenance for.
Yeah, to add with that, doing a regular tune-up or check on your heating and air system is a fairly inexpensive way of keeping the system working efficiently, as well as keeping your energy usage down. For example, a lot of contractors will have their heating and cooling specials for, $69 or $89. Just to let you know, if in the middle of summer your capacitor, which is like your battery for your air conditioner, goes out, that service call more than likely will cost the landlord upwards up to $800 to get fixed, especially in the middle of summer. So they can avoid some of that unnecessary cost by just doing the annual tune-ups, where it could be less than $100, and then and it's not the peak of the season. They're not going to get charged extra for maybe overtime or after hour calls. So it's something just to let your landlords know, or property management, take the proactive approach, because it's going to save them money in the long run. And then, like Grace had mentioned, as a tenant, are you living in the home, the number one thing you can do to help maintain the integrity of that system is constantly replacing that filter. Just ample airflow is always gonna, it's the number one way that you're gonna be able to save. Make sure that system is breathing properly, so to speak, and it's gonna run longer, it's gonna run more efficiently and effectively. So it's gonna create that comfortable temperature inside your house, and then it'll create less problems in the long run.
Yeah. So there's a question in the chat, Mike, sorry, go back one slide.
Okay.
So someone in the chat asked which way the arrow goes. So it's in this lower picture. Mike, can you use your pointer maybe and show them on the, yeah. So on the framing of, if you have a cardboard type of frame filter, right? Most of the disposable filters are in this cardboard type of frame. They're on the side of the frame, it will tell you next to them, there's numbers on the size of the filter to the left there, and then the arrow. So the arrow tells you the direction of the airflow. So this particular air register is in the ceiling, right? If this was in the ceiling, then the airflow would be going up, right? So the arrow goes this way. If this particular one is in the wall, then the arrow would be going facing towards the wall. And then if your air filter is in the system itself, like say maybe yours might be in the garage, usually that tends to be those garage units, or if it's in a hallway, then there usually is a little lip on the door, and then you would slide open the little kind of door, like a pizza looking door. It's like a lift latch upwards, and then you pull it out and the arrow would be going up as well. So hopefully that answers your question for that person that asked in the chat.
The arrow is always going to flow towards where the airflow is going, which is going inside the system. So you just got to remember which way your system is situated, because it's sucking air in from the room. So it's always going to be facing away from you. It's always going to be that's why it's called the return air. It's trying to suck the air from inside the home. So it's always going to be pushing towards the inside of the equipment. That's one way to always think about it.
Yes. Okay, so here are some supply air registers. So the top one, top to the left, it has the grill. So this particular one, that's usually a one directional type of air register. So that usually just goes, so the way that the fins are going upwards, so this particular one is going up. The one to the right on the wood floor with the hand there, that one's on the floor. So there are some air registers sometimes in some homes with them on the floor. A lot of times when we're out there in the field doing audits, we will see people put furniture on top of it. They put a couch on there, or they'll cover it with a rug because they don't like to see it or what have you. But it's really important not to block these, because it impedes the airflow and the comfort of the room, right? You're covering one of the vents, it's not going to work. Bottom left-hand side, this is a multi-directional. So this one here, usually you'll see this in a larger room. So probably in your living room, possibly maybe kitchen or some other room where there may be multiple space type of thing, a multi-room space. So this one has the fins going to the left, to the right, and then also up and down. So these ones, you will see those in that application. The one here on the bottom right, that's open. That's how you can tell it's open, because you could see the darkness in between it. And there's a latch there where you can adjust it. So say maybe for those rooms that maybe you don't want too much air going in that room, or maybe you don't use it that much, you can still leave it cracked open. You don't have to leave it all the way wide open if you don't want to, that's fine. Or maybe someone's complaining it's blowing over them on their bed. They don't want it blowing on them sleeping. So you can kind of adjust it with the little latch on the side, so that way you can kind of direct the flow to be a little bit more away from you. In this picture, it looks like there's kind of a little bit of a, it just so happens the way that this picture is taken, but there is like a plastic diverter. So say if you got a air vent that's not blowing the way that it needs to be, but you want it to kind of more go downwards or what have you, but you can't really change it. They do sell an air diverter at your local Home Depot or Lowe's. That's kind of like a plastic device that actually goes on this grate here. It's magnetic, so there's no drilling or anything like that. You can have that put on there, and then it can kind of direct the flow a little bit, so maybe it won't blow. It'll blow in a better direction that you have it. So there's a question in the chat. Should you keep all your registers completely open in a one-bedroom apartment, or does closing one or more keep you closing one or more of them help you save energy. Closing any of them would not save you any energy. The fan motor is going to still blow regardless because that's in the part of the system itself. Having them all open would actually be better because then you can and having the doors open in those rooms as well, right? Your bedroom door, if you leave it open, that will help the air return, pull air from that room as well to help mix the air in the home. So it will get to temperature a little bit better, right? If you close all the doors in your house, then the only air that's coming out of that bedroom is going to be underneath the door. And that's only a 1-2 inch gap. So that's not going to be good for airflow. So you want to make sure to have them open as much as possible, really. They should all really be open. Okay, next slide. So this is what it looks like in the attic. Most people don't normally see that. So what you see here is what they call sloughing. So this is the carrier of where the air goes through from your system to those rooms. And so it's it's in a multi-phase here. So the top picture, I guess the best way to explain it to you is basically what you see is you see a slinky that's got like a plastic cover on it. Then you got the yellow part, which is the insulation over that, right? To keep the temperature for the cold air and hot air. And then normally there's a plastic covering over that. It could be plastic, it could be black, it could be gray, it comes in different colors, but that normally keeps it together. When this sloughing happens, then basically things start to come apart because it's in the attic, it gets hot. When you don't get good airflow, or your temperature, it warms up, right? The attic's hot. The air in that ductwork will start to warm up or cool down depending on the season. And so this really should be taken care of by a heating and air professional, right? They need to come up, tape this back up, and cover all those back up. Now the question is, if you had asked about the closing of the air register, right? If you close an air register, this can happen on the bottom picture. This here is a broken duct, which means that the pressure, it created negative pressure in the ductwork and it's popped off, or sometimes there's real small holes. It'll open up and then it ends up breaking that duct. So in this picture here, this duct is now cooling or heating the attic instead of that room that it's supposed to. So that's something too that you want to let your landlord know, right? Before you tell them to have the heating and air person come, go up to all your registers and run the system and feel it. Is the air blowing in that room? If it's not blowing, then maybe you might have this issue on this bottom picture happen in the home, right? So then you can let the landlord know too. So then that way the heating and air person can go check in the attic, because you're not going to climb up there, to go and check, is this what's happened up there? And if so, they need to repair that, because otherwise you're going to be losing a lot of heating and cooling in your home. It's going in the attic. So that's something to address as well. So that's why usually you don't want to create that negative pressure in the home. You want to leave the registers open if at all possible. Next slide. Ceiling fans. So ceiling fans are great to have in a home. It's great for personal preferences. Some people like it more cooler, more, and so if you want to turn on a fan, that's great, instead of adjusting the AC for the whole house, right? Especially if you have a lot of people, different people's temperatures in the home. So ceiling fans are great. The directions during summertime is forward. So the top picture up there, the air should be blowing down. When you turn on your ceiling fan, if you're standing underneath it, it should be blowing downward. So then that way it can move the air around. During the wintertime, if you want to help warm up the home, you put it in reverse. There's a little switch on the base of the fan where you can turn it to go the opposite direction. We do recommend that you dust the blades off first and then have the direction go the opposite way. In some homes, if you don't have a ceiling fan, since you're a renter, then that might be something you negotiate with the landlord. Maybe you tell them, hey, how about I buy the fan and you hire the contractor to go ahead and install it. That way, it was installed correctly. It's not on you but you might have to leave the fan after you move. So that might be something that you consider asking your landlord if that, and then compromise to see if they will be willing to do that. The box fan here in the bottom, you'll probably see that if you're driving around or going by some apartment complexes or even homes. people have put fans in the window. This is creating kind of like your own whole house fan effect. You put the fan in there and you pull in the cooler air from the outside, because sometimes the breeze isn't going the right direction for that particular window. So you can put this fan in here, pull in the cool air, and then open another window to get the hot air out. That's a great thing to do in the early mornings or late evenings when the temperature's gone cooler. Next slide.
And also just to add on for the ceiling fans, typically even older ceiling fans, they use about 100 watts, which we equate to about a penny an hour. So if you have one on, it's on 24 hours a day. Just keep in mind that's a quarter a day. So let's say you have 4 of those running 24 hours a day during the summer. That's $1 a day. That's $30 worth of electricity that you could possibly be spending on your fans. So if you're not in the room, since no one's benefiting from that air anyways, turn them off. It may be, minute as far as, oh, it's only a penny an hour, but if you do it for the whole month and it's always running, it could add up the cost at your home. Especially, a great example is last week I went to a home that only 2 people lived in it, and it was a 4-bedroom house. They had, I think, 8 fans altogether running 24 hours a day. And so that's about $60 a month on just on their ceiling fan bill. And, just telling them that. And one person worked from home, the other one worked in the office. So just letting them know, reminding them during, if no one's occupying those rooms, just shut them off and only turn on the one that you're in. It'll save you some money. It's not going to be a lot, but, it adds up throughout the year.
Good point. Okay, so reducing the internal heat gain. So, I'm sure we all grew up with parents that told us all the time, turn off the lights, right? So lights do add heat to the room. If you are still using the regular old school bulbs, that the incandescent bulbs, and it hasn't switched to CFLs or LEDs, then they will get hot, especially if you have a light vanity in the bathroom. A lot of builders put those in where there's like 6 or 8 bulbs in there. Those types of bulbs tend to get very hot, and it will add heat to the room, and some other types of lights do as well. So that's why you always want to turn off the lights when you're not in those rooms. And it adds a load too, like Mike said, every little bit counts towards the kilowattage at the end of the month, right? So make sure to turn off the lights that you're not using. During the summertime, it's hard. I mean, time of day is right during dinner time. So in order to try to not have to run that AC so much, then we do recommend that you try to use something different, like a microwave, right? Microwave, cook earlier or the night before and then reheat. Or you can use other types of appliances. Nowadays, air fryers are really popular, Instant Pots, electric cookers, things like that. Yes, they use electricity, but they definitely don't add to the heat at all in your home, right? I mean, it's very little, it's very small amounts. So it would be best to use those, because once you turn on your stove or your oven, it's going to get hot. And even though you might have the window open, it's going to be very hard to get that heat out of the house at that point. So that would be something to consider doing. And then for the dishwasher, we always recommend definitely the dishwasher should go later in the day, off peak if possible, right? Or run it early in the morning because, it does give off the steam and the heat for it. And then there's a lot of times there's a delay on there. So you can actually don't have to wait to start it up. You can hit the delay and have it run later on.
To add to that as well, I don't know if you folks have been aware or known anyone that, especially that live in apartment style housing, some customers will use their stove or oven to heat that living area. So which we highly not recommend. One, it's dangerous for safety reasons, especially if you have a gas stove or oven, is because you're creating a possibility for carbon monoxide and you're creating that poor indoor quality. So, just be careful of how you heat and cool your home. We've run into past where we go to homes, the house is being heated by a open oven door. So
Yes,
a
and
no-no.
that is very expensive, especially if you have an electric stove. I've done a few audits where the customer's heater may not be working or they don't find it to be hot enough, and they've used their electric stove or oven to heat the home, and that bill is going to be very expensive. You know, that's a 220 appliance, so that's running the heat quite a bit, and that's going to raise your bill. It was several $100s for 1 month just for that. So that's not the best way to heat the home. Okay, reducing heat gain, air leaks, things like that. So things that you can do, this might be something that your maintenance person does, or this could be through our weatherization program. If there's gaps around the windows or the doors, then you want to make sure that there's caulking around that so the air and the cold and heat can't come in through that. And then for the light switches and outlet plates, there are some things like a gasket that can be put behind the plate, and that's what that bottom picture is. That's a foam gasket that goes behind there. Doesn't impede the switch or anything at all. You don't even really see it because the plate covers it. But that's just where air comes out, because if you were to remove that, there's actually a box right where the switch is, and sometimes there's gaps around it, and so there's walls, air coming in and out of there. So you're going to make sure to have the gasket on there will help to take care of that. For those of you that have fireplaces, right now, hopefully, if you've been using it lately, then you want to make sure to keep the flue closed when you're not using it. It will let heat and cold out of there, and so it should be easy to do. There should be a lever to open it. If not, then you want to make sure that, there should be a latch somewhere on there, up in there. There's a latch that either goes left and right, or you pull towards you to keep that door closed. If it doesn't stay closed, then when you're running your heat and air, it's going to go out through the chimney, through the exhaust. So then you need to let your landlord know so they can get a chimney person to take care of that for you to make sure it closes properly. If so, there's a question about how do you know if the flue is open? Well, so what you do is you open the cavity of the fireplace, right? You can use a flashlight, or sometimes you just look up. If you can see outside light, especially this time of the day right now, it's bright outside. If you can see light up the chimney, then it's usually open. If you poke up in there, you shouldn't see anything because it's usually a round circle or a rectangular dampener that will be up there. And so if you can see outside, it's open. So you need to make sure it's closed. You shouldn't see anything in the chimney. But you also, before you use it, you do need to make sure it opens, because if you don't open it before you use the fireplace, you will get the backflow of the soot and smoke coming back into the home. Okay. Okay, insulation. So this is just basically showing insulation. Like Mike said, apartment complexes, it's really hard. They don't allow us to do checking up there in the insulation for the attic. So this would be more for the single family homes and duplexes, folks. It basically, insulation is, think of it as like a blanket for your attic. It's hot on the roof, right? So that heat is stuck in your attic, and then that hot air is trying to get through your ceiling to come into your home. So this insulation is like a blanket. It's going to slow it down. Doesn't prevent it completely from coming through the ceiling, but it's going to slow it down some so that not so much of that heat and cold is coming through the ceiling, right? Because then your heating and air is basically not going to be as effective. So you want to make sure that there is good insulation where you can find your attic access point. Usually it's in a closet or in the hallway, things like that. So if you want, then you can, have them check it, or, we can come out and check it too. If you're part of the Energy Assistance Program discount, that's part of the weatherization that we can come out and do. Okay, next slide. Okay, reducing solar heat gain. So this can go for any home, really. These are showing examples of what you can do to cover for the heat coming in, right? As a renter, you're not going to make home improvements on your owner's property. So, these are ideas in case you're looking for some. They do, for the top picture up there, it's kind of like a roll down shade. Sometimes it's a crank, sometimes it's roll down, pull down. That's a shade to just kind of give you it's usually a screen, so you can usually still see through it, and it just doesn't let the heat hit the house so much. So most likely there's a front door behind this screen here. Some people also use this on their patios. If you're in an apartment, and some people use the screens that way, or the bamboo shades like this, or patio patio umbrellas, excuse me. And then for the inside of the house, it's best to use this kind of drapes here on the bottom left picture. The shears are nice and pretty and all, but they don't do anything to protect you from the heat and cold coming through the windows. So what you need to do is find something that's thicker. So something that you don't see have the light coming in this way and it blocks out the heat, it makes a huge difference. And so just for myself, I know that when we had the 115-degree heat on my patio slider, I have some drapes, and I took the temperature. My floor inside the house was 85 degrees because the sun was shining on it. But once I closed it, it dropped 10 degrees. And that was just a few minutes. So it's basically you're giving shade to the inside of your house. You don't want your furniture to get faded or anything. So, that's why we recommend to keep the blinds, the windows, blinds, and drapes closed during the summer. Wintertime, though, open it up. Let that heat come into the house, because then you won't have to run your heater so much. Okay, plug loads. So this is just basically showing all the electricity that we're going towards, right? Like, back in the day, 1975, your biggest user was going to be TV, radio, and that's pretty much it. As time advances, almost practically everything is going to electronics, right? I mean, in your own home, in almost most rooms, you're going to have at least 4 or 5 things plugged in per room. And so, people don't think about that. There's, now there's security systems, Wi-Fi, cable boxes, things that, back in 1975, you definitely didn't have. In the future, 2030, 2035, you've heard on the news, I'm sure, regarding electric vehicles. So that's going to be adding to your load as well. You're going to be charging a vehicle soon. So it's just basically we're just letting customers know that there is a trickle effect. Even things that are not being used, it's still plugged in. A lot of things have a light, a timer, a clock, something programmable on there. It's still drawing a little bit of charge, and so that will use some electricity. To hopefully try not to mitigate that, then you can use these smart chargers. The one on the bottom is a smart charger, so smart power strip, not charger, smart power strip. So how this one would work is, say you put your TV on one plug, and then you put your DVD, VHS, surround sound, gaming systems, what have you, and you put those in the coordinating plugs. So if the TV's on, those items will have power to it. But if the TV is off, those things don't have power to it. So that's kind of more of a smart technology, right? To be able to cut it off. The one on the top, the white one, is the normal one that you normally see, right? The power strip. This is good for an area, say, that you got a lot of things plugged in, but you just want to be able to turn everything off all at once. So you just hit that red switch and everything's off on that power strip, switch on that power strip. So you don't have to worry about plugging things in and out, because it does take time to unplug everything in a home. So this is more of a easier example of trying to just hit everything off with one button.
And just to add with that, with the amount of plug loads that we are now experiencing in our homes, from phone chargers, laptop chargers, TVs, gaming systems, they're suggesting by 2030, 50% of our load are going to be coming from plug loads, where before most of our usage were either by heating or cooling equipment. Now it's going to be vice versa. It's going to be, half of it's going to be from stuff that we just keep constantly plugged in, that may not be using a lot of electricity because we're not using them on a regularly basis. But as long as they're plugged in, you're closing that circuit, and it's using a little bit of power that adds up in the long run. If you guys are all SMUD customers, you're well aware of our time of day rate, which is the way we charge our customers for the electricity they use. It's when you use it determines how much you're paying for that electricity. In the past, it was the amount of electricity you use. So regardless of when you use it, you got charged the same amount. But with the time of day pricing, especially during the summer, it's very important to be aware of when you're using major appliances such as, let's say, your clothes dryer, your dishwasher, especially your heating and air system, if you have an electric vehicle, being aware and trying to switch your usage between those peak hours is going to save you some money on your electric bill. It's going to use the same amount of electricity, but it's going to be cheaper because of when you use that electricity. A good example is if you have an electric vehicle, or if you're a renter that has a pool, you want to charge your car or run your pool pump in the late at night. Early morning hours, that's when the electricity is cheapest. During the non-summer months, the only thing that you really need to worry about is the 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. The rest of the 21 hours, you're good. They're off-peak hours. So it's going to cost you the same amount outside of that 5 to 8 p.m. And also, a lot of customers that have adjusted to this time of day pricing is weekends and holidays are all off peak. So generally people are all home all day, so the amount of electricity, it's not going to spike during a specific time of day. It's going to more be spread out throughout the day. So peaks, holidays and weekends, we don't have any peak hours. Everything is charged off peak. So what can you do at home? Reduce your usage, do everything in as early as possible, doing your laundry early in the morning, later in the evening, or some dryers and dishwashers now are equipped with delay timers where you can load it and set a timer for it to run later on, and take advantage of that, running them during off-peak hours, pre-cooling your house in the summer, going a couple degrees lower before that 5 o'clock hour to pre-cool your house down. So, but when 5 o'clock hits, you can bump up your thermostat and your temperature a little bit, and it's going to run, but it's not going to run as often, so saving you a little bit more money. And then, like I said, take advantage if you have an electric vehicle at home, and you have the electric vehicle discount from SMUD. From midnight to 6, you get a penny and a half per kilowatt hour discount in your house, not just for your electric vehicle charging, for the whole usage in the house. So take advantage of that. If you have if you want to run your laundry during that time, if you have one of those delay timer clothes washer, use it and run it during those hours. Or if you have a pool pump, run it during those hours. That way you save your off peak, and then you benefit from the discount that your electric vehicle rate is providing you as well. Another tool that SMUD customers are able to utilize is our SMUD Energy Store. Here you will find some energy efficient equipment such as smart thermostats, power strips, LED light bulbs that will, if you're a SMUD customer and you log into your SMUD account, you get instant rebates. It's also available for non-SMUD customers, of course, but they just don't get the rebates that we offer our SMUD customers. It's constantly updated with new energy efficient technology and equipment. So if you get Christmas is coming up, we're going to have, they usually put LED Christmas lights in there and for discounted rate. So something to think about, if you guys are shopping for energy efficient equipment or appliances in the home, take a look at the SMUD Energy Store. Maybe there's something there that you're interested in that we're able to provide for you. With that, that is the end of the presentation. Once again, thank you for taking an hour or so out of your day to join us today. Hopefully this was helpful and beneficial. If you guys have any questions, you can put on the chat, or if you guys are interested with our weatherization program, and if you think you qualify for that discount program that we offer, reach out to us at smud.org. And we can definitely try to help you out and maybe even conduct a home energy audit at your home.
Thank you so much, Mike and Grace. To follow up on that, if you want to reach out to us, if you have any other questions, if you want to inquire about anything that you learned about today, reply to any of the emails that you got regarding this workshop, the reminders, anything like that. It goes directly to me, and I will make sure to pass it along to Mike or Grace or whoever would be appropriate to answer your question. If you have any additional questions, now is a great time to add them in the chat. Thank you, Grace, for monitoring that throughout the presentation. I do want to remind you all while you're here that we have some other exciting classes coming up in October. We have an Is It Right For You series. The first one's going to be October 6th. It is a heat pump water heater right for you? We'll talk about what that even is and how to decide if it's a right match for you. Following that, on October 13th, we have Is Battery Storage Right For You? So if those are of interest to you, the links to register will be included in your post-event emails that you're going to receive. And I do see a question here from Janet asking if they can get a copy of the slide set, if it's all right with Mike and Grace. I'll convert this to a PDF and include it in that post-event email as well. And like I said, this is recorded, so if there's any part you missed or you want to go back and rewatch any of it, it'll be posted. Our goal is within 2 weeks to smud.org/learn. If you scroll down, there's a online resources section. I do see someone typing, so I don't want to rush off just yet. Okay, great. So more people like to have the slides. Awesome. If you see, or if you think of any questions later on, or sometimes I like to process things and realize I have questions later, always respond to those emails and we will get back to you. Thank you again, everyone, for being here. And a huge thank you to Mike and Grace for taking your time to share your expertise, your little tidbits of all of that, of your experience out in the field is super helpful. And I hope all of you at least found one thing, one strategy or tip that you can start implementing today. Thank you.
Thanks
Thanks,
for attending.
everyone.